everybody, and welcome back to the Toilets to Titles NFL Show Wednesday nights with me, your friend, old Joe Knows. It feels good to be back. I'm sorry I missed out on last week's episode. It was a last second thing. Uh, I consider myself to be a really, really good dad, a really good father. But last week I was not a good dad. I forgot about my son's high school winter orchestra um, performance school performance. I made it. Everything was fine. Made it on time. Plenty of time to spare and all. But I forgot up until like 2.5 hours before that it was. I realized that it was going to go on last Wednesday night. I that's when I realized that it was actually last Wednesday night when the performance was supposed to take place. I thought it was sometime in January. I thought it had been postponed to January after the holidays because here in my town, that's what they've been doing winter concerts for the past few years since COVID. They've been pushing it back to January, and I was wrong. It was December 7th, I guess it was. So, uh, lo and behold, like 2.5 hours before the performance, I realized that there was a performance that night, and I wasn't going to have time to do the show live, certainly, and I didn't have time to record it either. So, I had to basically bow out of last week's episode. So I do apologize to you, my audience, my millions of viewers. I sincerely apologize for missing last week's episode, which was weeks 13 and 14. This week is a recap of week 14, the week 14 games, and my picks for the upcoming week 15 games. But it does feel good to be back. Also, you see me kind of, decked out in the sweater here, my little beanie cap over here. I am getting hit. I did get hit with COVID, me and my entire family this weekend. I'm getting over it now. I'm still, COVID positive, but I feel a lot better. Sinuses, sinuses are a little dry. That's pretty much it. I'm still I feel a little tired, but other than that, I'm okay and good to go, and I am all caught up on the games, the NFL games. I'll tell you, I love the NFL, but man, this season, the 2022 season, can't end soon enough for me. I don't know about you, but for me, it can't end soon enough. This feels like a really, really long season. Now, maybe it's because I'm 51 years old and I have an internal clock in me. It's a 16-week NFL regular season internal clock that I've had going for 40 years, and maybe that's just what I'm used to. And it feels like the finish line has been kicked out just ever so, just ever such further, ever so further. And that 17th game, man, that we still have 4 games left to go. It seems like so much, for most of the past 40 years, it would have been 3 more games to go, and it sounds so much closer to the end of the regular season there. And looking forward again to the NFL playoffs. Those are the best. And 4 more games. It just seems so far out. It really does. So honestly, I think it's just been such a weird year. So many players haven't performed well that we expected, haven't performed well that we expected so much from. So many teams that we expected so much from haven't performed well. It's been a very underwhelming season. You definitely have fan bases that are extremely happy out there. Any team that's 10-3 or better is when I say better. I think there's just one team that's better than 10-3, and that's the Eagles. Those fan bases are very happy. They're definitely looking forward to the playoffs. Obviously, you have plenty of teams that are you have a good shot to get into the playoffs, but I don't know, man. It's too many mediocre teams. I think this year to really kind of like for me to get all excited about it. I'm a Giants fan. If my team were 10-3, I'd be more excited. But the wheels have been coming off that train for the second half of the entire half of the second season for the Giants. So I don't have that same feeling. But man, this season, this regular season, I kind of want to get it over with, man. There's been so many bad injuries too. So many, just a really horrible year of injuries in the NFL. And I just want to kind of get to the playoffs already. Just want to start it. Want to get guys to the playoffs healthy. I want to see these teams bang heads, fully stocked, fully healthy, their best players ready to go. And so, anyway, that's my intro for this week here. Just a rant, but I haven't been on air in a few weeks, so Joe's got some things to say. What can I say? What can I say? Joe's got some things to say. Anyway, guys, let's get this banner out of the way here. Let's get the bells and whistles out of the way. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Please give us that 5-star Apple review. Everything like that, hitting the like and subscribe, hitting the like button If you could subscribe to Toilets to Titles, we really appreciate it. Again, that's just a click of a button. And if you can take 30 seconds to give us a 5-star Apple review, it really helps us out a lot. All of that really helps us out. Just liking the video, definitely subscribing to our YouTube channel. We're up to 850 subscribers, maybe a little more, but I know the other day we hit 850. So we're only 150 away from getting to 1,000. That's obviously a key metric. So, and again, a 5-star Apple review helps us out a lot. Anything like that, just a few clicks of a button or a few words of support just helps us out so much. Where you can find the show: Apple Podcast, YouTube, Facebook, Podbean, and Spotify. And you can also find all of our material at our wonderful website, toiletstotitles.com. We've got like 15 contributors here. Some of us do videos, some of us do articles, some of us do both. Whatever we create, it all goes to our kick-ass website, toiletstotitles.com. Everything winds up there. I love that website. You will too. We cover NFL football. Our bread and butter is fantasy football and college football. When we cover NFL football, that's kind of like my forte. That's like my focus. I really don't talk too much college football anymore or too much fantasy football. And we're getting bigger and bigger. We're getting bigger and bigger into NCAA NFL draft. So we're producing more and more different types of football content for you, and we're always bringing on new people. Um, with new material, new content, and again, whether it's fantasy, NCAA football, draft, NFL. We got it. It goes up on our website, and we love talking football, and we love sharing it with everyone. That's why we do what we do. And last but not least, if you can go to patreon.com/toilets to titles, you can learn how you can further support our show and our, all of our content. And I want to give a shout out to our current Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for supporting us. We appreciate you appreciating us. Thank you so much. It really means a lot to us. It's really cool to be able to, just put creative stuff out there and have people, support you extra for that. It really makes us feel good. Thank you so much. And just want you to know every dollar that we do get through Patreon goes back into making our content as good as we possibly can. And anyway, those are the bells and whistles. Let's get into the games. And before I actually do that, let's see the comment we got here. Dennis is one of our new guys over here. Dennis I believe he joined today. He is one of our new contributors here at Toilets to Titles, and he's going to be working on draft content. Speaking of draft content, I was just hyping that up. How we're getting, we've got more and more draft content, and Dennis is now a part of that. And he's going to be doing write-up scouting reports for college football players amongst a few of us others here. And Dennis has asked me, what do you think the chances are that the Lions make the playoffs? Dennis, man, I love the Lions. Dennis, Dennis, are you a Lions fan? I'm just curious. I've got some friends. I live in northeastern New Jersey. This is Giants and Jets land, and we've got smatterings of fans from other teams as well. But I actually have a few friends here in the area who are Lions fan. Dennis says he is a Lions fan. All right, Dennis, that's cool, man. You know what? Man, I don't. You know what, Dennis? I don't know the rest of their schedule, but I like their chances. Um, my team, the Giants, are reeling, and I don't like the rest of the schedule. They're playing Washington, who I think they match up evenly with, in which who they actually tied. Speaking of being even, they tied a few weeks ago. Um, and then they're playing, and you guys shellacked us, so you guys are out of the way. But we're playing the Colts. We're playing the Vikings, who we'll definitely lose to. And then who's our fourth game? We got to play the Eagles again, so that's a loss right there. So, I know I think the Giants still have like that seventh playoff spot, I believe. Washington's in there, Seattle's in there. Man, I think you guys have a really good chance. You got to run the table. You got to run the table. It stinks because, man, you know, it stinks, Dennis, just because you guys had a really good start in the beginning of the season, the first few games where you're putting up a lot of points. The problem is that your defense is letting up a lot of points. You know that. I don't need to explain it to you. But now your defense is playing better, and your offense is still putting up pretty much more points than any other team out there, except for maybe the Philadelphia Eagles. Um, so I love the way your team is building. Detroit is finally, I'm 51 years old. This is the first time ever I can remember the Detroit Lions actually being built into a physical team. You have studs, you have stars, you have sexy players, but you are building a physical team. And I love that. And that's what needs to be done. If a team's ever going to be a Super Bowl contender down the road, if they're going to be built to be a Super Bowl contender, they got to be physical. I mean, you can be, a flashy team um, and win a Super Bowl. I think it's harder. I think you do have to be. You do need your flashy players, but I think you need to be physical at the lines of scrimmage. And this is the first time where I think Detroit's actually really building this team well, the right way. Um, Listen, it's going to be hard for Detroit to make the playoffs because I think, but they're at 6 wins and they got 4 games left, man. I don't know the rest of their schedule, but it doesn't look good for the Giants. Washington's been a lot better the second half of this season as opposed to the Giants, but Washington's not a great team either. And then Seattle's 7-6. They're not great. Seattle's a good story, but they're not a great team. I think Detroit's more talented than all three of those teams who are ahead of them for those final playoff spots. I think Detroit is more talented than those three teams, hands down. Um, I'll tell you what, I'll say this. You know what, Dennis? I'll say it's 50-50. I think it's 50-50 that Detroit gets one of those spots. And nice job handling the Vikings this past week, which I'm not completely surprised about. And of course, I'm going to be talking about it in a little bit, Dennis. But I'll tell you, man, I can talk about Detroit because I find Detroit interesting, and I was on the bandwagon for them pretty much last year. This is two draft classes in a row that they've done really, really well. I liked last year's draft class last year, immediately after it was done. I liked it a lot, and I loved this year's draft class too that they had. They've been making the moves they've made have been fantastic. And Dennis, if you're still listening, I'm curious as to what you think what happens with Goff after this year? What happens with Goff? Does Detroit look to draft a young quarterback and restart that clock? Or do they continue to ride it out with Goff, who, to be honest, with you, if he still has a few years left on his contract, I believe he does. I would assume that it's actually, compared to most other starting quarterbacks who are good, and he's looking very good, I would assume his contract at this point is probably pretty reasonable compared to most good starting quarterbacks. Maybe 2 years ago in the Rams, it wasn't looking good, but now in Detroit, he's got good command of this offense. They're putting up like what 30 to 35 points a game. Um, what do you do with Jared Goff? I was thinking about that earlier. So I do like Detroit. I like them a lot. He Dennis says he'd love to see them hold on to him and focus on the defense. I'm kind of with you, Dennis. I'm kind of with you, man. Focus on the defense, and you know what? And obviously any other offensive players you might want to add as well. Maybe the offensive line help focus on the offensive line. Because as far as I recall, his contract, maybe I'm wrong, isn't it like $35 million a year? Which now after a lot of quite a few quarterbacks now have like 40+ million dollars a year. It's looking pretty reasonable, and Goff looks very competent in more than competent in that offense. He looks really good. It's really clicking with him. So I don't know. I'm kind of with you, man. I'm kind of with you there with holding on to Goff and just focusing on building the rest of the team, especially the defensive side of the ball. Um, anyway, okay, let's move on to the games from week 14. Let me give you my opinion. Okay, so this game, man. Oh, this Thursday night game. This was funny, man. I'm sorry, Raiders fans. I'm sorry. I'm not really laughing at your expense. I am laughing at the outcome of the game, but I'm not laughing at your expense. Again, I'm a Giants fan, but the Raiders are actually one of my backup teams, along with the Dolphins and the Browns. Uh, uh, but this is just a funny loss, man. It really is. Baker friggin' Mayfield. This guy doesn't go away. I have no hate for Baker Mayfield. I don't think he's a good quarterback. Um, but man, this guy doesn't go away. It's so funny. What, he was on the Rams for like 24, 48 hours. He comes in and he helps pull out the win. 17-16. It wasn't like Baker came in and put up 40 points or something like that. The Rams put up 17 points in one. I'm not criticizing Baker at all because he really was signed like 3 days before the game, and he came in and they won. So kudos to him. But the Raiders, man, the Raiders. I talk about it. Two disappointing teams. Obviously, the Rams are the defending Super Bowl champions. They're 4-9, and the Raiders, with Devontae Adams, the new head coach, which I never thought they should have made that move anyway. But the new head coach, some other additions. There's no way the Raiders should be 5-8 this year. I'm actually more surprised by the Raiders being 5-8 than I am the Rams being 4-9. I know there were quite a few people that had the Rams written in as strong contenders to repeat making the Super Bowl. I didn't see it that way. I didn't see the Rams as that talented of a team last year, to be honest with you. They were talented, don't get me wrong, but I didn't see them as a team like, oh yeah, I'm automatically riding this team into Super Bowl contention as defending Super Bowl champions. I didn't have them that way. I thought they were getting older. Um, and I just never thought they were that great to begin with. They easily could have lost that Super Bowl to an inferior Bengals team. And nothing against the Bengals, but the Rams were better on paper, and the Rams barely hung on to win that Super Bowl. I'm actually not surprised by the big dive that the Rams took this year. Just all given all their injuries, and I'm not surprised they were all injured. They're an older team, and they never really found another piece to add to Cooper Cup. I hated their running backs. I never liked Cam Akers. I never liked Darrell Henderson. I never liked Robert Woods. He's not even on the team anymore, I guess. Van Jefferson. I never liked Allen Robinson. Never liked the dude. Never liked him. I never thought he was this great wide receiver, just waiting to be made with the right quarterback. Well, yeah, maybe with Patrick Mahomes, possibly, but no. I just so I was never, and I knew the Rams' offensive line was old and beat up, and they hadn't replenished it, which the Chiefs did a really good job of quickly a few years ago, and you can see the difference there. The Rams haven't done that, but it doesn't matter. The Rams won the Super Bowl. That's all that matters. I'm not criticizing them. I'm just pointing out why I thought that I wasn't surprised that the Rams had a bad year. The Raiders, I'm surprised about. And this is just a loss that's indicative of the Raiders season. It really is. Now, people might want to go back to having Josh McDaniels fired. I can't stand that guy, and I would never hire him to work on my team at all after what he did to the Colts a few years ago. I would never, ever hire someone like that. But you know what? He's your head coach. It was his first year, and he's got to get at least a second chance. He's got to get at least a second year. But that is an extremely disappointing loss. I know the Raiders were not going to the playoffs anyway. But if they had won, it would have been 6-7. They'd still be in the conversation. I mean, I didn't feel good about that team anyway. They weren't going to make the playoffs. But you can't lose to the Rams. You can't lose to the Rams. They're completely beat up. They don't even have Cooper friggin' Cup, do they? And the starting quarterback. There's no excuse for that. That is just really bad. Okay, so the Bills 10-3 defeat the now 7-6 Jets. The final score is 20-12. The Bills defeat the Mike White Jets, the Mike White led Jets, and it looks like Mike White, at least for now, is going to finish out the year possibly as a starting quarterback. Apparently, Zach Wilson is now going to he's moving up from the number 3 spot to the number 2 spot at quarterback position. So he is moving up in the world. I think Zach Wilson. Listen, I don't believe in giving up on young quarterbacks too early, especially when they're drafted as high as he was, number 2 overall in the first round last year. I was never crazy about Zach Wilson coming out of college, and I've never liked anything I saw from this guy on the field at all, including and probably especially his personality. I don't know. I don't even like the look of the guy. I think he just looks like an entitled doofus. Um, yeah, he just looks like some sort of tool. Zach Wilson looks like a tool. He really does. Um, I think he just looks like a young idiot. Anyway, I don't have too much to say about this game. Listen, the Bills took care of business. Jets are a solid team. This team is being built the right ways as well. I don't know what they're going to do at the quarterback position. I don't know if they're going to roll Zach Wilson next year. I'm not crazy about that dude at all. I don't know what they're going to do about quarterback position. But the Jets, other than quarterback, are building the right way. They've got talent on both sides of the ball, legitimate, real good talent. Where if they have a good quarterback, if they maybe get a pretty good, you know, trusty veteran in there next year, the Jets could take a huge jump, a huge jump. They're going to have the defense next year. They already have offensive weapons. Their offensive line is getting better and better. They got some good young talent on that offensive line. That's even including with some key injuries like Elijah Vera Tucker. They've got Brees Hall. Obviously he's done for the season, but he showed so much, before he went down with his injury. Jets have a lot to look forward to. The problem is, what's going to happen with the quarterback position. I don't believe Zach Wilson will wind up being the long-term answer. I'm not saying give up on him just yet, but definitely get yourself a real legitimate um, other option there, like a guy who can come in, like, with a proven track record of winning, a veteran. Doesn't have to be a big contract guy like a Russell Wilson or something like that, but get a guy, a veteran, who has a proven track record of winning, who knows how to make some smart decisions, who maybe you can get on a somewhat decent deal. And I think the Jets can make. I think the Jets could compete for the division next year in the AFC East. The Bills are 10-3. They are right now the presumptive lead for the number one spot in the AFC for the playoffs. It's them and the Chiefs, and I believe they have the tiebreaker against the Chiefs because I believe the Bills, if I recall correctly, beat the Chiefs early in the season, so they have the head-to-head win. But man, Bills don't feel all that great. It's kind of for me. It's kind of like the Minnesota Vikings. They worry me. Um, the the Bills worry me. They lost Von Miller too. That's a key blow. That's a key veteran you don't want to lose. Uh, Young Gregory Rousseau is coming along really well. That was a great pick. What was it? I think did Rousseau come out in last year's draft, 2021? They got him like pick 29 or something like that. Perfect spot for him to go, perfect team for him to go to, and perfect value when they drafted that guy. I loved when they drafted Rousseau. I thought that was perfect at back end of the first round, and just such a good team for him to go to. And he had 2 sacks in this game. He helped win this game. Um, it was a close game. Listen, man. Listen, Mike White. Give me a break with Mike White. All right, give me a break with Mike White. He's not the answer at quarterback for the Jets for the future, and I don't think he's even the answer this year, to be honest. I think it's time to throw Flacco in there, but it sounds like Flacco's now the QB3. I put Flacco in there personally. Uh, but listen, the Bills did take care of business. But the Bills are for a long time now have been leaving me wanting more, and I do think they need to invest in an RB1 in the draft next season. Um, it, James Cook could wind up being an RB, the RB1. I was very high on him, and I still am high on the guy. I was telling people I loved him coming out of the draft. I was telling people that I think he could be the RB1, by the end of the season. And but what I'm looking for is more like when I say an RB1, as much as I like James Cook coming out of college, and even now, I'm not convinced that he can be like a long-term RB1. I mean, the Bills need to invest in a, say like a, second round next year, a guy like Brees Hall who can come in and from day one be RB1 for like the next 5 years. A guy that you can count on every single game, no doubt about it, is going to be your RB1. And I'm not saying they're going to change. The Buffalo Bills are not going to change the nature of their offense to be like 50% run, 50% pass. No, they're going to be a heavy pass first offense for the rest of Josh Allen's career. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think they really need to upgrade that running back room a little bit. And I think Singletary is really good, and I like James Cook a lot too. But I'm not going to count on one of them, to be that RB1. I want a guy who I feel like can really take the reins and do that. And I think that would help them out a lot. I really, and I guess they could probably use another upgrade at wide receiver as well. Gabriel Davis he's good, but listen, he had that great game the great playoff game against the Chiefs, the great playoffs last year, but he's too kind of like he doesn't show up enough. He doesn't show up consistently. They need more consistency there, alongside Diggs, and it looks like Cole Beasley's coming back to the Bills. That's cool. I assume he still has some game in him, but the guy's a lot older, and he's not exactly the wide receiver two that I'm thinking of. Like they need a real upgraded wide receiver two in terms of consistency to play alongside Stephon Diggs. Um, so I do think the Bills have some key holes there on making a Super Bowl run. They can certainly do it, but I think they've got some worries there. The Bills have me a little worried there. They're 10-3. They got me a little worried. There's some teams that are 10-3 like the Cowboys. I'm not worried about that team. I think the Cowboys are. You can't get much more. You can't get any more solid than the Cowboys this year. Um, the Eagles are up there. I think those are probably the two best constructed teams right now in football are the Eagles and the Cowboys. Um, the Bills worry me a little bit. The Vikings worry me. I'm not convinced about the Vikings either. Uh, and the Chiefs, I like the Chiefs more than the Bills. I know the Bills beat them earlier this year, but I trust Mahomes. I trust Andy Reid. Um, I like the Chiefs more than the Bills. Okay, I'm spending too much time on each of these games. Let me go through this a little quicker. Bengals, man, Bengals are having a nice bounce back the second half of the year. They're now 9-4. They defeated the 5-8 Browns. The final score of this game was 23-10. Um, Deshaun Watson didn't have a horrible game for a game that it was his second game back as a starter in like 2 years. He had a pretty decent game. He did. He wasn't horrible. They just Browns lost to a better team, the Bengals. The Bengals have found themselves again. They had definitely had a slow start to this season, but they rattled off quite a few wins now over the past like 5 or 6 weeks. They're now 9-4. They're looking good. They're looking good. I just want to speed it up a little bit because I did spend a lot of time talking about the first two games. The Cowboys, 10-3, man. They defeated the 1-11-1 Texans. The final score was 27-23. This close to being a crazy, ridiculous upset. Never should have been this close. That is insane. Um, but the Cowboys did pull it out. In the final seconds, they pulled out this game. I think they were down 23 to 20, I think, and they started, I think, at like the 4-yard line with just a few minutes to go, and wound up scoring the winning touchdown with just a few seconds to go. Pulled out the win here. Um, that was, hey, listen, that's all I'm going to say about that game. They took care of business. It was a game they should have won. Not every game is going to be a blowout the way it should. It doesn't really matter as long as you win. That's what matters. That's what matters. Cowboys took care of business, and like I said, um, the Cowboys have gotten healthy at the right time. Uh, I think the Cowboys, for me right now, the Cowboys I think are the best team in the NFL. I think it's them and the Eagles, neck and neck. I'll put the Chiefs up there, but I've got the Cowboys and the Eagles as the top two, and I think the Cowboys can beat the Eagles. Obviously, they're both good teams. It's not a shock. I think most people would take the Eagles in that matchup. I would take the Cowboys in that matchup. I really like the Cowboys defense a lot. I think it's legitimate. The Eagles defense is really good too, but I like the Cowboys defense more. Um, and I think their offense is good enough too to go against the. Let's put it this way: I like the defense. I like the Dallas defense matchup against the Philadelphia offense more than I like Philadelphia's defense matchup against the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys offense can handle the Eagles defense easier than the Eagles offense can handle the Cowboys defense. I like the Cowboys in that matchup a little bit more. So I've got the Cowboys in my mind as the number one team in the NFL right now. They're like a 1A, and I've got the Eagles at 1B, and I'll put the Chiefs at a close number two. Um, okay, let's move on to the 6-7 Lions. Um, all right, Dennis's team, the 6-7 Lions, defeated the 10-3 Vikings. I shouldn't say defeat; they upset the Vikings, the now 10-3 Vikings, 34-23, and this shouldn't be shocking. Um, I think the Vikings have been. Listen, Vikings are a good team. They've had a really good season. Obviously, they're going to the playoffs. I don't have them being nearly as good as the Cowboys or the Eagles, or even some of the other teams in the AFC like the Chiefs and the Bills. Um, and the Lions have been really hot. The Lions are a talented team. Their defense is finding their footing. The Lions defense is catching up to its offense. It's not as talented, but it is catching up. I think it's finding its footing, and they held the Vikings to 23 points. That's pretty impressive because the Vikings are explosive in their own right. Vikings offense actually had a pretty damn good game. If I recall correctly, I think Kirk Cousins had something like over 400 yards and two touchdowns, but like 400 yards. He had a really good game, but it wasn't enough. And the Lions are now 6-7, and so you got 4 games left to go. And yeah, I mean, listen, I'll give the Lions a 50-50 chance to make the playoffs, to get like that last spot in the playoffs for the NFC. Because right now, I guess ahead of them are, I think, the Commanders, the Giants, and Seattle. And none of those three teams are great. I think the Lions are better than those three teams. I just don't know what the rest of their record, what the rest of their schedule looks like. But the Lions can beat anyone. They're a team that can legitimately beat anyone on any given Sunday. Um, Hang on, let me just take a sip here. The Lions could legitimately beat the Eagles or the Cowboys or the Chiefs or the Bills or the Dolphins on any given Sunday, and it wouldn't be a surprise. It would be an upset, but it wouldn't be a surprise. That's how well the Lions have been playing this year, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Except for a few weeks when they were missing key weapons like Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift. And obviously, it's looking right now like, DeAndre Swift was the talk of the town in the beginning of the year, and rightfully so. The guy's a really good running back. He's a really good player. The stir, obviously, I think by now we know the straw that stirs the drink for the Lions offense is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Um, that guy makes things happen. He is the special player on that team. And now they have their rookie wide receiver who scored a touchdown. Their first round pick, Jameson Williams, their first round pick, who missed most of this season uh, because of the injury he suffered at the end of the college football season last year. But I love that they picked him anyway in this draft because the guy is uber talented. And I think this was just his second game back, if I recall, maybe his third game back. I think it was his second game back, and he scored a touchdown. I think it was only one reception, maybe on two targets, but whatever. It's only his second game back, and he scored a touchdown. This team's going to be fun to watch for quite a few years with that offense, with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, and they even just traded Hawkinson. This team's got, and they've got some other pretty good wide receivers as well too. So and Goff is just looking, he's in absolute command of that offense, man. So the Lions are a deadly team. This is a team that, yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyone can beat anyone on any given Sunday. It's true. But then there's a real chance to beat someone on any given Sunday, and the Lions give that to you. The Lions are a scary team. They're a scary team. Okay, the 5-8 Jaguars. Now they defeated the now 7-6 Titans, 36-22. The Jaguars are kind of like the Lions of the AFC. The Jaguars are 5-8. This is a team that easily could be 8-5. They've had many close losses this year. Um, within one score that they were in good position to win, and it kind of blew again. That they where they blew the game. They're a young team. They're a young team, but they're a well coached team. But young teams are going to make mistakes, and learning to win is part of the process. I've said it before. Learning to win is a real thing, and I think the Jaguars are doing that. And Trevor Lawrence got hurt, but he had a really good game. He's looking like the Trevor Lawrence that we loved in college and that we expected coming out. He's looking like that generational quarterback um, that we expected and that many people seem to forget about because of his first year under that head coach from hell, Urban Meyer, last year. What a sick joke that was, honest to God. But Jaguars are 5-8. They easily could be 8-5, but this has been a really good season for them. And the Jaguars, just like the Lions, I love how that team is building as well on both sides of the ball. They're really accumulating good talent on both sides of the ball. Um, so they defeated the Titans, who are Titans are looking old and boring, dude. They are looking old and boring. They were like 7-4 or 7-3. It was 7-3 a few weeks ago. Now they're 7-6, and they're just looking old, man. They're looking old and boring. They really are, and it's not looking good for the Titans at all. Their GM was fired earlier this week, and the Titans GM that is, and they need help because right now it's just Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill. They got Treylon Burks, but I think he's got a concussion, and he shows a lot of promise. He's missed a lot of this year with injuries. I don't know if he was injury prone in college. I don't know if he was. Maybe it's just his rookie year. He's just banged up this year. I don't know, but they're going to need more wide receiver help next year. And I don't know what they're going to do with Ryan Tannehill. He's still a good, effective quarterback, but I don't know what their plans are with Ryan Tannehill. But Tennessee, they need some more weapons at wide receiver next year. Because listen, even if Tennessee makes the playoffs, they're not going anywhere. Not this year. Not this year. They're not. All right. Before I get on to the next game, let me check out the comment. Imagine if they get Urban there. Wait. I'm sorry, Dennis. Imagine if they get Urban Meyer? If who got Urban? You talking about Urban Meyer? Dennis, can I imagine if who got Urban Meyer? Or are you talking about if Detroit gets what the tight end Mayer in the draft? Is that what you mean? Michael Meyer. Yeah, Michael Meyer. Okay, right. Well, hey, listen. You think they're gonna go? You think they're gonna go for me? You think they would go for Mayer? You think so? I don't know, man. I don't know. It would be interesting. It would be interesting. It would be interesting. That would be interesting. But I don't know, man. The Lions front office, I don't even know who is their GM, Dennis. Who's their GM? Because he or she or whoever has been doing a really good job for the Lions for the past few years. Um, all right, so let's move on to the next game. The Eagles. Okay, the Eagles are 12-1, best record in the NFL. They defeated my Giants, my reeling Giants, who are now 7-5-1. The 40 final score of this game was 48-22, and it wasn't even that close. There was definitely like a garbage time touchdown there at the end. This game was over in the first quarter. I think the I think the score was 21-0. I think at the end of the first quarter, this game was over. I'll be honest, halfway through the first quarter. Um, Eagles look great. I still think Dallas can handle the Eagles. I do. Um, I'll say this though, the Giants are everything's just caught up with the Giants. Injuries to their interior offensive line. It's all you got to do. You don't even have to try to rush around the edges with the Giants. You can just blow up the middle. It's the interior offensive line has been banged up since like week 5. They're on like their sixth and seventh guards, like their third, second or third center. The interior offensive line is completely banged up. They've got no wide receivers. Um, let's see, what are their other problems too? On the defensive side of the ball, their best cornerback is gone. Leo Williams was. Listen, I'm not talking about the Giants. Just this game, they were never beating the Eagles. I'm just talking about they are reeling right now, and I'm not sure what they're going to be able to do to end the bleeding. I really don't. I think they match up fine against Washington. They play Washington this upcoming week. Um, they could get the win in that game possibly. The game's going to be in Washington. It's good. That's going to be, it's still going to be tough. Um, Giants, they have a lot going wrong right now for them. And listen, I think the team has played well. I'd like overall this year. They had a hot start the first half of the year. They played well. They had stuff go their way too. They caught teams. They played teams at the right time, such as like listen, the Packers obviously didn't have a good year. They beat the Packers. They beat the Ravens, who are not having a great year. They beat Tennessee, who's not great either. They beat them when Tennessee was, the beginning of the year too, in Tennessee before they found their footing and before Tennessee had gotten hot themselves. Um, and the Giants have suffered quite a few injuries since then as well, and they don't have the type of talent. They don't have the depth, to they've been past the point of no return with their injuries, the Giants, and it's caught up to them. And they were even fully healthy, they were never going to beat the Eagles. That was never going to happen. Even fully healthy, they couldn't match up with a team like that. But I'm talking about matching up like with a team like Washington, if this was like 5 weeks ago, I would definitely have the Giants ahead of the Eagles, but not the Eagles, Washington, but I can't say that now. I still think the Giants can make the playoffs. I do think there's four more games for the Giants in their schedule. I do know, of course, because I'm a Giants fan. They've got one more game against the Eagles. I think it's the last game of the season. They're not winning that one. They've got a game against the Vikings. I'm not sure when that is. They're not going to win that. They're not winning that one either. But they've got a game against Washington, which I think is winnable. I'm not going to have the Giants as the odds-on favorite to win that game, but it's definitely winnable. And they have a game against the Colts, which is winnable as well. Giants win those two games, they get to 9 wins, 9-5-1. They're definitely going to the playoffs. So I still think I still think destiny is in their own hands to get one of those final playoff spots. But I just I do think they got to the point where it's like, listen, man, they were doing really well. Their coaching was doing a really good job with the talent that the team had um, earlier on, and they've had injuries since day one. The Giants, but with the good coaching, they were able to make things work anyway. But it got to the point of no return where there's only so much next man up you can do. So that's where we are with the Giants. And also Saquon's hit a wall too. It's like I said, the offensive line, it's really the interior of the offensive line that's just being completely blown up. And but they were using him at an unprecedented rate in his career in terms of his carries. Uh, I think that the most amount of carries that he had was his rookie year was like 269 carries or something like that. And a few games ago, like 3 games ago, he was on pace to blow by that and hit like a 411 carries this season. So he's hit a wall. He's the only weapon they've had all season long, consistently. That is. Darius Slayton's had a nice year as a wide receiver, but he's never been and never will be a wide receiver one. He's never going to be a game breaker. It's obviously Saquon Barkley is where the offense runs through, and if he's not playing well, the offense isn't going to play well because he's really the only playmaker they have. Slayton's done a nice job. He's been a nice wide receiver, but he's not a playmaker. And again, it's Saquon was the only playmaker. He's definitely hit a wall there. I think he is playing, I think, injured at this point, and but healthy enough to be on the field, but not healthy enough to be effective like he was like the first 7 weeks of the season, 7 or 8 weeks of the season, where he was one of the top 2 or 3 running backs in the NFL. So Giants are in trouble. They're in trouble there. But the Eagles march on. They took care of business. They showed who's boss, and that is such a well-run team. That guy, their general manager, is got to be general manager of the year. I know, and maybe it'll go to some other teams that people weren't expecting anything from and did a lot better. The way this guy has restocked the Eagles and has them poised for long-term success, he should be general manager of the year. Howie Rosen, GM of the Eagles, should be general manager of the year for this year. The Eagles are so well stacked on both sides of the ball. He retooled this team like within a year or two, and he has them poised for long-term success. Um, Okay, the Ravens are now 9-4. They defeated the 5-8 Steelers. Final score was 16-14. It is what it is. I'm not going to spend too much time in this game. I know Lamar Jackson didn't play; he was injured. Ravens, they got the win anyway. I believe um, Kenny Pickett, quarterback for the Steelers, got injured early in the game. I believe concussion. Mitch Trubisky came in, didn't have a good game. He had something like three interceptions, um, and the Ravens pulled out the win in this game. Ravens did have the running backs are healthy now. The running back, all the running backs are healthy. So they did a really good job, Baltimore, of establishing the run and having a good field day here with the running game. That's what won this game for the Ravens. They're now 9-4. Ravens don't look great either, though. To be honest, even with healthy Lamar, the Ravens do not look great. That team still needs wide receivers, man. They still need wide receivers. You can have all the running back committees you want. You can have a great running quarterback. You still need some wide receivers. They need wide receivers, and it looks like Rashad Bateman might not be the answer. He's done for the season anyway, but that's it because it's not Duvernay. It's not Duvernay. So, even if Lamar Jackson comes back, he's 100% healthy, and he's the Lamar that we know, and they still have like a really good running game and a three-headed running back committee. It doesn't matter. They need more legitimacy at wide receiver. The Ravens won't be going too far in the playoffs, and their defense isn't what it used to be either. Let's be honest. All right, the Chiefs 10-3 held on against the 3-10 Broncos 34-28. Russell Wilson actually had a really good game, and then he left with a concussion. He had something like three passing touchdowns. I think he had over 300 yards because he had like 70 yards. Yeah, I think he had well over 300 yards if I recall correctly because he had like Russ Wilson had something like 70 yards rushing, I believe, and he had well over 200 yards passing. So I think he had well over 300 yards altogether, Russ, and I think he had like three passing touchdowns, and Russ Wilson definitely played the best game of the season. This game, and Broncos came this close to pulling up a really huge upset against their divisional rivals, but a little short. And what are you going to say? What can you say? The Chiefs are a much better team anyway. But anyway, Russ Wilson, I believe, left the game with a concussion, if I recall correctly. But the Chiefs, better team, won the game. And then all right, I'm going to start going through these games pretty quick because we are getting to the 50-minute mark of this video soon. The 49ers, 9-4, defeated the Buccaneers, who are now 6-7, 35-7, and that is with Brock Purdy as at quarterback for the 49ers. Unbelievable. Uh, Buccaneers, man, 6-7, just like the Rams last year. I'm actually more surprised by the Buccaneers this year. Uh, yeah, they're doing better than the Rams, but man, just not looking good. And it's not just Tom Brady. Just so much about this team is missing Bruce Arians. They're missing Bruce Arians. I think Todd Bowles is probably gone after this year as the head coach. I don't know. Maybe Byron Leftwich is given the job as head coach, but I would assume Todd Bowles is gone after this year as the head coach. Anyway, 49ers took care of business against the Buccaneers. Man, 35-7 with Brock Purdy as quarterback. Unbelievable. Panthers are 5-8. They defeated the 7-6 Seahawks 30-24. It's funny because it feels like Seattle has so many more wins than 7 wins, but they are 7-6. Seahawks is still very much in the playoff hunt. Um, but the Panthers pulled the upset here, and ever since they got rid of Matt Rule as head coach, ever since they got rid of Matt Rule and Christian McCaffrey, Panthers have played a lot better. Both Chuba Hubbard and Deontay Foreman, two running backs for the Panthers, did very well. They're really what run what won their running ability won the game this week for the Panthers. But listen, Seattle's a better team. They should have won this game. This is not a game they should have lost. Seattle. But they did, and if Seattle won this game, they would have gone. It would have gone a real long way in terms of locking up, in terms of solidifying a playoff position for them. Nothing would have been locked away, but they would have been in the strongest position to claim one of those final playoff spots. Geno Smith didn't have the best game. I think he had two interceptions, I believe. Um, but still, Seattle should have won that game, man. They're a better team. The Chargers 7-6. They defeated the now 8-5 Dolphins 23-17. Um, Chargers, man. Chargers are 7-6. This is a team we expected so much more. One of those teams, one of those many teams, we expected so much more from this year, and it didn't turn out. They did get a nice big upset here against the Dolphins, 23-17. Dolphins are still 8-5. They're not going to win the AFC East. That's okay. They are going to go to the playoffs, and the Chargers are looking better and better. Their wide receivers are healthy. That's obviously a big reason why they're only 7-6 this year. Justin Herbert's been able to keep this team afloat while while his key wide receivers have been hurt. I should say I should give credit to Eckler as well. So Herbert and Eckler, who's having a really good year, kept this team afloat until until the wide receivers came back. Mike Williams had a really big game. Good for him, and so he's back as well. So Chargers are looking good. They're looking good. I'm still not fully buying into this team. They have been a disappointment. I realize, like I said, they've had a lot of key injuries with the wide receivers. That's going to hurt any team. I get it. There's still something else missing with this Chargers team. And maybe it's just the head coach. Maybe it's just the head coach. I don't know. But Chargers are trending in the right direction. And the Dolphins are going to be fine. The Dolphins are going to be fine. Patriots defeated and this is the Monday night game. The Patriots are 7-6. They're still in the playoff hunt. They defeated the 4-9 Cardinals, 27-13. You can officially stick a fork in the Cardinals. They are done. I think Kyler Murray, got injured in this game as well. And that's right. Did Murray tear his ACL? I forgot. I think Murray got hurt. Anyway, it's just kind of like a bit of a blur there. Like I said, I did have COVID this weekend, so I did catch up on the games, but some of it's becoming a bit of a blur. But anyway, the Patriots took care of business. I tell you, like I said, you can never ever count out a Bill Belichick team. Somehow, this is by far not the most talented team, but somehow Bill Belichick keeps his team relevant. Um, even without the GOAT, even without the players he used to have, this is a team that's definitely younger. It's definitely newer. It's definitely a next generation New England Patriots team, and they're still 7-6. That's good. That's good, and they play in a really tough division with the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Jets, who are having a really good year. And the Patriots are still 7-6. I realize that they beat the Cardinals, who are having a horrible year, but it doesn't matter. They're 7-6. So kudos to the Patriots. You took care of business. You're still in the playoff hunt. And I love Bill Belichick. I will always love that guy. He was my defensive coordinator for my team in the 1980s. We love him. We worship that guy over here in Giants land. Bill Belichick. We love that guy. And I will always say, never count out Bill Belichick. Patriots are not going to the Super Bowl. That's not what I'm saying. But you can never count out his teams on any given Sunday. And I realized the team they just beat was not very good, but still, you can never count out his teams anyway. Anyway, guys, let's get to that is the Week 14 recap. Let's do the Week 15 picks. All right, guys. I did make my picks for Week 14 last week, and then I did make my picks actually. I got them down on paper, and that was when I realized that I've got my son's winter concert tonight, and I can't meeting last week, and I couldn't do the show. Before I did that, I did do my picks. They weren't so great. I had one of my worst weeks last year in terms of my picks. Um, yeah, last week was probably my worst week this year in terms of my picks. So last week I was 7-6 with the spread, and I was 5-8 straight up. I think that's the worst I've ever done between last year and this year. The worst I've ever done straight up. I went 5-8. That is horrible. So again, last week my week 14 results, I was 7-6 with the spread, and I was 5-8 straight up for the season. With the spread, I am 108, 96, and 4. So again, I'm 108, 96, and 4 with the spread. And for the season straight up, I am 122, 84-2. Again, straight up for the season so far, I am 122, 84-2. Now, here are my week 15 picks, and the spreads are from ESPN.com as of today. They're as of like 6 p.m. today. And I'm sorry, let's do this. Here we go. Okay. So tomorrow, the Thursday night game, 49ers at Seahawks. The Seahawks are getting 3 points at home. The 49ers just kicked the crap out of they just kicked the crap out of. Who the hell was that again? I forgot who it was. But the 49ers haven't lost much with Brock Purdy at the helm. Garoppolo went down a few weeks ago. 49ers have responded very well to Brock Purdy leading the offense. But this game is in Seattle. Seattle is a good team. Uh, Seattle is a tough area. It's a tough like it's probably the toughest place to play as the road team. And Seattle's getting 3 points at home. I'll go with Seattle getting the 3 points. I'll take the 49ers straight up. Colts at the Vikings. The Vikings are giving 4 points. I'm going to take the Vikings giving the points. I'll take the Vikings giving the points and the Vikings straight up. The Ravens at the Browns. The Browns are giving 3 points. I couldn't believe the Browns were giving 3 points. Um, I'm going to take the Ravens getting the points and the Ravens straight up. Okay, Dolphins at the Bills. The Bills are giving 7.5 points. Now, the Dolphins beat the Bills earlier this year, but that was in Miami. Now they're going to be playing in freezing cold Buffalo. Um, I'll tell you what, it's going to be freezing cold, but I'm going to go with the Dolphins getting the 7.5 points. I'm going with the Bills straight up, but I'm going to go with I'll go with the Dolphins getting the 7.5 points. Eagles at the Bears. The Bears are um, oh, I have it as the Bears giving 9 points. The Bears are getting 9 points at home. I'm going to take the Eagles giving the points and the Eagles straight up. Again, it's the Eagles at the Bears. The Bears are getting 9 points. I'm going to take the Eagles giving the points, the Eagles straight up. The Falcons at the Saints. The Saints are giving 4 points. I'm going to take the Falcons getting the points and the Saints straight up. Desmond Ridder is going to be the starting quarterback for the Falcons this week. So he's a rookie. I'm very much looking forward to seeing him playing. I'm not that super high on him, but I do like his potential. I think he's got the potential to be a pretty good NFL quarterback. I'm not sold that he's ever going to reach that level, but I'm curious. I'm curious. I liked him. I think he was drafted in the third round last year, if I recall correctly. And I thought that was good value for him, where the Falcons took him. So I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see how he plays. I am curious about Desmond Ridder. So he will be getting his first start and I'll take the Falcons, even though they're playing behind the rookie quarterback. I'm going to take the Falcons getting those 4 points, but I'll take the Saints straight up. Lions at the Jets. All right, this was even on ESPN.com. This was even. Lions at the Jets. I'm taking the Lions straight up. So since it's even, there's no spread provided by ESPN.com. I'm going to go with the Lions straight up in this game. I really think the Jets should be playing. If they want to give themselves the best chance to make the playoffs, I really think they should play Joe Flacco. Steelers at the Panthers. The Panthers are giving 3 points. I'm going to take the Steelers getting the points and the Steelers straight up. Kenny Pickett, I think there's still, it's uncertain. I believe his status is still up in the air for the Sunday game. So Trubisky's probably going to play, but I think I think there's a legit chance that Pickett does play. Either way, I'm going to go with the Steelers in this game. I think the Steelers defense is going to be too much for the Panthers. Cowboys so again, I'm going to take the Steelers getting the points and the Steelers straight up. Cowboys at the Jaguars. The Jaguars are getting 4 points at home. I'm going to take that. I'm going to take the Cowboys giving the points and the Cowboys straight up. Um, I don't think this game will be a blowout. I don't think it'll be a blowout. Um, it may even just be a one-score game. I'd say maybe like a touchdown, because the Jaguars have had they haven't really been blown out too much this year. A lot of their losses have been within one. I'm sorry, within one score. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Jaguars only lose by like 6 or 7, but either way, that's still more than 4 points. So I'm going to take the Cowboys giving the 4 points and the Cowboys straight up in Jacksonville for the Cowboys to win. Chiefs at the Texans. The Texans are no, I have this written incorrectly. All right, the Chiefs at the Texans. The Texans are getting 14 points. Um, I'll take the Chiefs giving the points and the Chiefs straight up. Again, the Chiefs at Texans. The Texans are getting 14 points at home. I'll take the Chiefs giving the points and the Chiefs straight up. 14 points is a big spread. That should give you room for pause. But I've paused. I've thought about it, and I'm still going to go with the Chiefs giving the 13 points and the Chiefs straight up. Cardinals at the Broncos. What a snooze fest this game is going to be. Ugh, what a snooze fest. I guess there's a chance both starting quarterbacks are going to be out anyway, and even though neither of them are having a very good year. Um, Cardinals at the Broncos. Cardinals at the Broncos. The Broncos are giving 3 points. I'm going to take the Cardinals getting the points and the Broncos straight up. Again, this is Cardinals at Denver. Denver is giving 3 points. I'll take the Cardinals getting the points and the Broncos straight up. Patriots at the Raiders. Here's another game, the second game this week. ESPN has marked as even. They're providing no spread. So I'm going to go with the Raiders straight up. I should change this to the Patriots. What's interesting about this game is neither of these teams are great, but what's interesting about this is that all of these coaches know each other. You've got Bill Belichick as the head coach for New England. Over on the Oakland side, you've got Josh McDaniels, obvious, long-time offensive coordinator for the Patriots. He's now the head coach for the Raiders. The Raiders' defensive coordinator is Patrick Graham, who for the previous few years was the Giants' defensive coordinator, but he originally came over from Bill Belichick's staff in New England. Uh, and then for the Patriots, you've got their offensive coordinators are what it's a combination of Matt Patricia and and Joe Judge. And Joe Judge was the head coach of the Giants for the past few years. His defensive coordinator was Patrick Graham. So it's all a family affair here in this upcoming game between the Patriots and the Raiders. That's interesting. I don't think the game is interesting. I just think the family affair is interesting. Um, I should take the Patriots. They're having the better season. The Raiders have been having a bad season. But I'm going to take the Raiders straight up in this game because the game is in Vegas. I'll take the Raiders straight up in this game. Titans at the Chargers. The Chargers are giving 3 points. I'm going to take the Chargers giving the points. The Chargers straight up. The Chargers have their wide receivers back. They're healthy. The Titans they're kind of reeling right now. They're kind of looking old and boring. Bengals at the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are getting 3.5 points in Tampa Bay. That's amazing. I never thought I'd see that with a Tom Brady led team and a team as talented as the Buccaneers. This is a team that is super underperforming the talent they have on this team. I feel that way much more about the Buccaneers than I do the Rams. I think the Buccaneers were a much more talented team on paper coming into this season than the Rams were. Buccaneers have their injuries too. They've got a very banged up offensive line as well, and it's apparent when if you watch their games, it's apparent the Buccaneers' offensive line is very banged up as well. Uh, Even with that, the team has just not been playing well on both sides of the ball. They have not been playing up to their talent. So the Bengals have been playing great. They've really found their stride. I'm gonna take the Bengals giving the 3.5 points in Tampa Bay, and I'll take the Bengals straight up. Giants at the Commanders. Oh man, this is a tough one. Here's the thing: our Giants at the Commanders. The Commanders are giving 4.5 points. The Giants are reeling. The Commanders have been playing great. They've been playing really well for the second half of the season. The Giants have been horrible for the second half of the season. The thing is, the Giants play historically just match up well against Washington. For whatever reason, they just kind of have their number. Um, this is the Sunday night game. And this is also Daniel Jones has never won in prime time. You know what? I can't go against that. Um, no, it's okay. I've got the Giants. All right, so the Giants at the Commanders. Um, the Commanders are giving 4.5 points. I'm going to take the Giants getting the points, and I'll take the Commanders straight up to win a close game. Unfortunately, I'm going to go with the Commanders straight up to win a close game, but I will take the Giants getting the 4.5 points. Rams at the Packers, the Monday night game. Ooh, another snooze fest. Um, okay, so Rams at the Packers. This game's in a very frigid, cold Green Bay. The Packers are giving 7 points. I guess maybe we get to see if Baker gets to work that old Baker Mayfield magic again. I'll take the Rams getting the 7 points, but I'll take the Packers straight up to win. Yeah, I'll take the Rams getting the points in Green Bay, but I'll take the Packers straight up. And those are my picks for week 15. Bam, let me close that out. All right, everybody. All right, everyone. Well, anyway, that's pretty much a wrap. And before I go, I just want to say, if you could, here are the Twitter handles for me and most of my compadres here at Toilets to Titles. I do think I need to add a name or two or three. We're always adding new people, so I got to update this thing more often. But anyway, if you could, I'd greatly appreciate it. If you could follow everyone here, the Twitter handles, we greatly appreciate it. There's like 15 of us here at Toilets to Titles, and we all try to, you know, produce just the very best content, whether it's videos or articles or both, whether it's fantasy football content, NCAA content, draft content, NFL content. We have it covered, and we cover it for you. And last but not least, just a friendly reminder, please hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell, ding, and give us that 5-star Apple review. We greatly appreciate it. It really helps us out a lot. Anyway, that's Joe Knows. I'm out of here. I'll catch you guys later. Enjoy your Week 15 games, and I'll see you next Wednesday night, just a few days before Christmas. Take care, everyone. I'll see you soon.